entrepreneur, author. And what I get to do is my dear pleasure outside of solving problems for my customers and my clients is also interview gurus who are subject matter experts who really speak directly to the business owner who may be just starting or the successful business owner or serial entrepreneur who's maybe missing, maybe a few nuggets that, that they miss to get to the next level. I asked this person literally this morning. I am not kidding you. And this is how I roll. Is I like to see if they really do know what the heck they're talking about. Is no exception. Is Lindsay Mills. He is the author of a brand new book that literally is tearing up the charts. And if you don't order it now, and if you don't get him while he's still not on, on Good Morning America right now, it's probably a good time to buy it right now. He's on his way to becoming a bestseller on Amazon. And I want you to go ahead and pay attention to exactly what he says. Take your notes. What he speaks to is from being in the trenches. He's not somebody who just wrote something and, hey, I got an idea and I got to sell it. No, he's actually been there. He's been in business. I've been in business for a little while, and he's probably just a little ahead of me in his business acumen. So I wanted to welcome Lindsay Mills. Thank you, Lindsay, for being here on a Sunday at the last minute.
Thanks, Nikkei. That's how we do. We always have to be ready because you never know when the opportunity will present itself. And so I'm very glad and happy to be here with you today. And just, excited about what you're doing and what you've been able to do with your business. Since we started talking, several years ago, we were both kind of new into this market, and it's been a grind, but it's been good.
It's been a grind, but it's good. And we've gone through so many different challenges. And I would be remiss if I did not mention your partner and probably the smartest woman in your household right now is Michelle Serrano Mills, who you guys have helped me when I was in my infancy. And I give credit to where credit is due. When I didn't know anything about graphic artistry, you and Michelle helped me to design some of my first, swag. So thank you very much for that. Literally, first T-shirt you guys actually did.
Well, yeah, Michelle's she's been in the trenches with me since '89 and by '89 in college, and so we've been a good partnership since then, and glad that we met you and your wonderful partner Nikki, and how you all have grown your business together. That's wonderful.
Excellent. Well, I just lost Lindsay for a second there. He's probably going to have to pop back in. Somehow the scenes got jammed out. I don't know what happened, but I wanted to go ahead while he's coming back in because it looks like he popped out. Maybe have had a telephony issue or something like that, but I suspect he'll be back in momentarily. So let's just say, for example, you are in your business. You have, things that are growing. And Lindsay's going to speak to this. He's going to speak to basically like the pitch. If you are at the point in your business where you need to move to a next step, I oftentimes teach business owners how to start with little money. If your credit is terrible, if you really, you don't have a lot of friends, that's where my level. I'm at the entry level. But what happens when your business is growing and it's successfully growing, but you need to, quadruple? You need a major marketing campaign, or you need to build a business. And what I mean by business is you build a building, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. You're going to have to go to someone else. It's basically Shark Tank, and Damon Johns has done a brilliant idea of putting that idea together, but you may not have access to Shark Tank right now. I mean, there is probably a litany of people, but what can you do locally to be able to pitch your business, try to funding, but also what is the mindset that you need, and what are some of the critical tools that is going to sustain your business? A lot of businesses that were doing amazing before and who are doing okay now, sustainability, it wasn't there. And those of our brothers and sisters in the restaurant business, my heart goes out to you. But other businesses are falling also because sustainability may not have been, as integral. They were just trying to make a buck, hustle, pay the bills, and we know how that operates. So I wanted, when Lindsay get a chance to pop back in to be able to come back into, let me see where he is right now. Looks like, he's trying to pop back in right now on his, I guess it was a signal. It's a rainy day over here where I am, but he's going to pop back in and show you some of the things. Now, here's something while we're doing that to kind of, get us going is I was listening to a news article on NPR, which I do sometime occasionally. And it was telling you, and I can't remember exactly the show, but it's really all about being comfortable with the person who you least like. Sort of weird, right? And that's business, that's marketing. How do you become comfortable being in a conversation or creating a conversation which you personally dislike? And it was all about what happens when they ran experiments to see what would happen if they told the person what kind of person that was and then drew them back in. Okay. It's all about business. It's how do you communicate with that individual so that they feel that you're like them, if that makes sense. If people like, love, and trust you, they'll buy from you. But if you in your mind say, and let's go political, if that person is not in my political party, I may not sit next to. I may be diametrically opposed to what they're talking about. But in business, you have to be able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's how successful business is going. And so Lindsay has also mastered the art of being comfortable with the uncomfortable. When things don't go the way we planned, how do we market so that we become comfortable? Because if we become comfortable solving problems with other people, you become extremely wealthy. And the big names that you and I know have learned how to become comfortable in their business with being uncomfortable. So Lindsay, I think I got you back. All right. Okay. Somehow you popped out and I got you back.
All right, yeah. So that's the way we roll, right? So
Exactly.
I was not streaming there for a while. I said, well, let's see if I can get back here, and you kept it rolling. And so
I will keep it going. I will keep it going for. I've done this for a little while to know how to get it, keep it moving. Okay.
well, that's awesome. And we always expect technology works when it works, and it doesn't when it doesn't. So we come back and get right back into it.
Get back on that horse. Keep on riding down into the sunset. So tell us real quickly, how did you get into business? What led you to for this crazy? Very few people are nutty enough to do it, but strangely enough, a lot of people are jumping into it now. But it could be like I talked about, it could be a shark's tank. And if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how to navigate it, you're going to be eaten up really, really fast, spit out, and become poop. And you're going to be the next failure story that you'll never jump back in. So tell me and our listeners, how did you get into business?
Well, it really first started when I was in junior high school. My first business was selling candy out of my book bag. I had a friend who he would be able to get penny candy, and he was in certain classes, and I was in some of the little advanced or honors classes, so he couldn't get to my market. And so he said, "Well, I have this penny candy. What you'll do is if you take some of it and you sell it to the folks you can get to, then I'll give you half of the profit." And so he bought it for a penny. We sold it for 3 cents. He kept a penny, and I kept a penny profit. And so eventually, what I said is, in my classes, the people were willing to pay a little more, so I started selling for 5 cents. Kept giving him his 1 cent profit, and then I was able to get 3 cents off the deal with no money in. And then I decided that I wanted to go with some premium candy, like the sour lollipops and the Charms pops, and so I started buying my own. And so that's how I first got into business because, just, kids and, finding a market and selling candy out of your book bag. And then in college, Michelle, my wife, and I started a t-shirt business, and we were selling t-shirts to different fraternities and also to the police department and different organizations around campus because there was a need. At that point in time, you couldn't order offline and get print on demand. And so we learned how to design t-shirts in our computer lab when everybody else was at the parties. We would design t-shirts for a few hours, and then we go down a little later at the parties. And so that's how we really got into business. And then I've had corporate jobs before, but I've never been really satisfied with having a corporate job. I always wanted to have my own business and control my own destiny. Because in the book we talk about, a job can only be rented, but a business can be owned. And so that's what we really talk about.
That is some wisdom right there. Rent to own, or are you renting, or do you own it?
Right, right. Because when people always say they lost their job, well, you lose your job, you really didn't own it, right? So if you own a business, you go down with the business. It's like, my business is out of business. You don't really, can't nobody put you out of your business unless you have a board and you lose control. But you always want to make sure that you are building some assets. At first, when we really start a business, you're really working to learn, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And you're probably not gonna make much money when you first start out with your business. You're gonna be burning through cash. And
Let
so,
me let me
okay.
ask you that question, because that's fundamental within the business community, because failure is part of the process. What are some of the mistakes, the common mistakes that people who are either new in the business or even seasoned professionals make in your eyes, in your many years of working with clients and helping them navigate some of these rough waters, and actually making them and showing them how to make successful strategic, decisions that will take care of their families?
Well, the biggest mistake that most people make is they try to look like they're in business and successful before they're actually successful. I learned from a good friend of mine who, his family came from another country, and what they do is they go in and they buy a high cash flow type business in a what he used to call, a crappy little place. So an office with, or a little retail shop that pays very little rent but has high cash flow. And then you take the money and cash flow you earn from that business and you invest it into your next business. And in what they do in their culture is they actually give that business to the next person that's coming over, or a brother, or a friend, or a child, an adult child, and they keep building from there. A lot of times when people get into business, they're trying to look successful when they're not making any money. So they look good and they smell good, but they are broke. And so what I learned is provide the a good environment, but the least expensive way that you can go and provide a good quality product and service to keep your expenses very low.
And I'm glad you pointed that out, because there is a tendency, if you, especially if you watch how, it's like, I want to be a baller, I want to look the part, I want to buy this, whatever is the name brand or whatever's floating around, and you're supporting that almost crack habit, but your business is unsustainable, and you'll speak, I suspect, to sustainability. Now, changing gears just a little bit, because we're going to bring your book in, and I'm going to show everybody your book, and I'm going to tell everybody, go over there and buy it. I bought it this morning. Literally, I think I bought it like it was six or seven this morning. Wow, I hate to say that. I was on a toilet, and so and I said, if Lindsay put something out, you better damn well buy it. Okay, you better damn well read it, and more importantly, you better damn well use it, because it's a waste of time and a waste of his effort and a waste of his gifts and the time that he takes away from his family to show you how to do this. You have access to somebody can help you. You may not have access to other people, but right now, for a limited time, you have access to Lindsay. Otherwise, good luck trying to track him down the road. But talk us through the funding component, because I think that may be a second component that a lot of people miss out on. And I
Mhm.
heard another business person say one of the biggest mistakes that businesses make is that they don't fund for the long haul. They fund for the quick win.
Exactly right. Well, here's the part about the funding. First of all, I usually try to tell people, unless you have a lot of savings or investments, try to get into a business where it has a low cost of entry or low barrier to entry, and you don't have to have a lot of cash in order to start out. That way, you can go with what we call a minimal viable product, that is a product or a service that's just good enough to meet the needs of what people are looking for, and then you consistently improve upon that. Keep your what we call cash burn very low. A lot of companies that start up or startup businesses, they're looking for a few $1 million to burn in cash for the first few months, and that's normally through payroll with employees and a big staff. But I tell people, keep it as lean as possible, and keep your staff as lean as possible, because then you don't have to burn so much cash and you don't lose as much control of your company. Because if you have to bring in outside dollars, whether it's loans or investors, in the very beginning, you lose a lot of control up front because you need the cash. And so try to start with as low as cash as you need, unless you need to buy materials or products in order to resell. Try in that way to try to fund it yourself as much as you can. Now, if you have a very high growth, scalable business and you need to bring in investors, you want to be very careful on your terms and what percentages that you're giving up, in the front end, because you might need to go and raise some money on the back end and not have enough equity left in order to bring in those extra dollars. So it's
Mm.
very important to talk about how you're funding it and where your funding is coming from.
And I think that's fundamental, and I think you really hit the hammer on the head. Is that you may have given up so much on the front end that you don't have any wiggle room on the back end. If
Exactly
you
right.
need to, and you will need funding down the road. There is no business. And I remember reading something that said that it took Amazon 19 years of profit loss to finally become $1 trillion company. Do you have that longevity in your mind, or are
Right.
you just trying to fund, just a quick win? So it seemed like so now. I love the way you use your first business, because that is seriously like I'm trying to teach my son the same thing, because now he's selling video games,
Okay.
and so candy, video games are video games. He's a big video game nut, and so his pitch right now is going and mastering a video game that he knows he likes and everything like that. He enjoys it, and he gets to a level and gets all these whatever and all these accolades and rewards and everything. And then he goes to this place that sells basically accounts. And I was
Okay.
like, and so he tells me, I said, dude, you're missing the fundamental. I said, how much do you sell that account for? He said, $25. I said, how much did you buy it for? He said, $25. I'm like, dude, what's the point here? Okay. But in using your example, you buy it for $25, you should not sell it for no less than $125 or something like that if you use the exponential growth concept. So, what are some of the other nuggets but let me back that up. What made you write this book?
So, very good point. I was going to a lot of pitch competitions and startup weekends that a lot of young people were out there and they were had great concepts and great businesses, but they didn't really know how to pitch or present their product or their business in a way that would appeal to investors. They were more so selling to customers, and they just didn't really have a systematic way of doing that. And so, when you talk to them about their business, they would kind of meander on. So, we started looking and researching, and we saw this what we call lean business model. It's a one-page business plan that it talks about your need, it talks about the solution, it talks about the marketplace. So it enables you to put your ideas and thoughts down and refine it into one business page, one business plan page, and then it also talks about how do you consistently put that into a pitch in order to, whether it's a 3 minute pitch, 5 minute pitch, or 10 minute pitch, you have those points and put together and put your deck together. And so I saw a lot of, smart young people who had great business ideas. They would miss out on opportunities because they didn't know how to pitch and they didn't have a system for going through the preparation, the pitch, and then the funding. And so, just through those several years of doing that as a volunteer, a mentor, and coach, and just observing a lot of those, I said, well, let me put it together in a book that's very easy and simple to read, such that people can go from beginning of no idea what they're going to do to ideation, to coming up with the concept, developing their pitch, and then looking for funding and learn how to put that funding together. So that's what we wanted to do, is take it from beginning to end in a very simple format.
So, and I like the way you said young people, because if I'm not mistaken, and I remember you telling me this, I can't remember how many gray hairs ago this was, but you were you were working with like cash flow, the Robert Kiyosaki group, and then you had modified that to create your own version of it, and for years was teaching young people in your community and around the state and around the region the concept of what you literally just did. So as I said, this is not so I just had an idea recently. He's been doing this 20 plus years, actually
Right.
almost 30 years now that I think about it. So so do you see some similarities which helping, say, a 10-year-old or an 18-year-old versus say a 30-year-old and a 60-year-old, the same concept?
Well, the concepts remain the same, and what you're mentioning is we created a experience called Traders, the stock market experience, we wanted to teach people, starting out with young people, how to invest in the stock market. And so what we did was we wanted to create the behaviors. We wanted people to do the transactions and go through the behaviors of trading to in 1 hour what most people don't do in a whole year. And so I think it's very important for anybody, whether you're a young person or most successful entrepreneurs are in their 50s or close to their 50s, simply because they've had lots of experiences and they've had lots of losses. And then what they have done, though, is over that period of time, they've developed some monies, retirement, or some monies put aside to give them that longer uh, runway in order to help this business grow. So a lot of times what I always tell people is you have to get some reps under your belt, just like in any sport. If you don't have any reps, if you sat on the bench and all of a sudden they put you in the game, you're probably not going to be very good. But if you had a chance to play the game and go through the behaviors and experience some of the losses or experience some of those pressure situations, that's what business is all about. Just about anything that could pop up, we've experienced in business. I tell folks every mistake that you could potentially or probably ever make in business, I've made it more times than you could ever think of, and I've lost more money than you could probably ever imagine. But
Tuition. We just call that tuition.
that's tuition. You're right. So we don't call those are what we call the tuition for the future. So I don't have an MBA. I don't have a lot of those what we call those degrees. I just have a bachelor's degree. But we have what we call the School of Hard Knocks, and we know once we lose money, we don't do that again. So if you learn from that, and I always tell people, I have a lot of clients who are MBAs and have doctorates and those kind of things, but they are learning from me from an experience, and I'm going to help them save money. And it's not theory; it's actually what I've done and what I know works and what doesn't work. And we can still make mistakes. We just have a better probability of making less mistakes now than someone who is new or haven't been through that experience. They haven't been tested.
And I'm glad you brought up the MBA, because I remember many years ago, okay, many great years ago, when I was considering and I was doing all my applications for MBA program, and I came to you and I said, Lindsay, hey man, I'm thinking of going to get an MBA because it seemed like that's the thing to do. Go get an MBA, it looks better on your resume. And I remember you're like, dude, you have a business. There's your MBA. If anything you want to learn in an MBA course, start a damn business, and anything you want to know about marketing, profitability, employees, taxes, whatever it is, start a business, and you'll get a PhD. As a matter of fact.
Exactly right. And I think that's so important. I don't knock advanced degrees or those kind of things because I think any education is better than none. The best education is especially those formal types of educations if somebody else is paying for it. But I've seen people go into debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they don't know how to do some basic business concepts after that. And so I say, if you really want to be in business, if your job or your career or goal is to be in business, just start a business. Your first few businesses are your training ground. They probably won't be successful. So don't put your name on your first couple businesses. You use another name so when it goes out of business, it's not tied to your name. Wait for a while before you put your name on the business.
That's a good point. It's like, don't put your name on a business as your training ground. Okay.
That's exactly right.
So let's back that up, because you mentioned something that, let's say you're in your 50s or 60s or whatever. You got some cash coming in, some consistent cash coming in from either pension or whatever you have that's kind of keeping you in style. But you got that urge, you have that desire or something like that. What type of businesses? I mean, like now we're kind of being very broad, but let's get down to some meat and potatoes. What kind of businesses would you even think about advising? Say you have a potential customer, they say, or client, they say, Lindsay, I have this money coming in. I know that I live well below that, but I just don't know what business that I should start learning from. It may not be the one I stay in, but what is the first business that I've never owned a candy stand? I've never delivered. I've never had a lawn care business like everybody seemed to own. I've never owned a daycare center. I've never been a babysitter, which seems to be the fundamental path that every business owner has. There's some some business you started in your teens that you didn't even think was a business, and it goes that way. But let's say you're a little long down the road.
Mhm.
What would you say is some of the business ideas and models that really can kind of help you, with the quick way, so they can kind of get you up to speed, so that you can advance into something maybe a little bit more, up your speed?
So the first thing, if you've been in working in a career and you've had experience for a long time, the first thing I do is say is try to be a consultant in that type of a business, or pivot to whether you're a manufacturing rep or a consultant in the business that you already have the expertise in. Now, if your business, if you don't want to be in that business, then what I would suggest is find a model that is already in place and has proven. That can be network marketing, that could be a franchise, that could be you go in and buy somebody else's business who is getting ready to retire, or maybe they don't have enough monies to sustain their business. You can go in and buy an existing business with customers. So that's very, very good. And then, a lot of people are just brokers. I've been a broker for several years, whether it be insurance or stock market investments. Uh, I've been brokerage for other companies because I just want to get in the middle of the transactions a lot of times. The other thing that I did was once I left my first company, I used to be at a major Fortune 100 bank. The first thing I did is after I left there is I wanted something, a business that everybody had to do or had to use the service, and then it would come around every year. And so I started a tax business, and everybody got to pay their taxes, and they come around every year. And it's very predictable, and so that was a business that I could learn. And I started off charging people very little money, and I just worked my way up and built a client base. But that was something that was consistent, and I knew it was going to come around every year, and I could learn from it. And then I became an expert over the past 25, 6 years doing that. The other thing, one of the businesses that I run is I'm a insurance broker as far as health insurance now, and I've only been doing that for like 5 years. But health insurance was mandatory for a while, and most people have to have health insurance. There's a very specific date when the open enrollment starts, and it has an end date. Just like taxes, there's a day when it starts, and there's a date when it ends. And so
Predictable.
during those periods of time, those enrollment periods or those tax periods, I know the money is coming in. All I have to do is see how many in the middle of how many transactions do I want to get in the middle of at that point in time, and that's about marketing there. So try to find some of those predictable businesses that people are going to use quite often. And those businesses require very little cash out of your pocket. Those are pretty much knowledge businesses. And it takes a lot of shoe leather and a lot of miles on your car, or a lot of conversations like this in order to build those practices up.
Absolutely. Wow. I mean, you have dropped so many nuggets, and those of you who are watching this live, and those of you who will watch it later, make sure you reach out to him. I have obviously the book on screen. You can Google search Amazon to go find it. It's quickly right now. You can get it in a Kindle version, or you can get it in the hardback. So take your pick. If you're old school, order it and wait for it until Amazon gets here. Or if you're like new school and sitting on the toilet in the morning and you just want to read it right now, click, 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 live. I can read the book.
That's
Okay.
right.
Whatever is your fashion to kind of roll in there. Well, I want to thank you for taking time out of a weekend schedule, because this is actually being done on the weekend. I literally like I said, I texted you this morning and said, "Hey, you got time? Let's talk about it." So what would you say are some of the things you need to look at when you get this book? Be it the digital version or the hard version, hardback, or tangible version, because they come in different versions, I guess. What are some of the things that you believe is people's going to grab with regard to that?
Well, the first thing that we really, really talk about is find a need in the marketplace and create a business around the solution there. So if you're creating a business from scratch, very, very successful businesses came out of a need that somebody said, I'm having this problem here and I need to get it solved. And then you need to decide if there's enough people who are willing to pay you to solve it. There's some problems out there that people have, but they're not willing to pay anybody to solve them. It's just not painful enough. But if you can find a need in the marketplace that people are willing to pay you to solve, then I think that is a great business model in order for you to get into. And then if you can build a business around it, because a lot of people have a product or a service, but it's not big enough or scalable enough to create a business around it. And
Mm.
so the need in the marketplace is the key. Don't try to just create a business and then go find a market. Find a market first, then you fill that need and do it better than anyone else with your unique way of doing it. Because we can all look at coffee is a big market, but coffee is coffee, right? But if you create an environment where people feel good about it and they identify with it, and then they're willing to pay you $4 or $5 a cup, kind of like Starbucks. They said they're the second or third place, I believe, as far as where people want to be. Then you have a business around that, and you can scale it. So it doesn't take rocket science. It's just fulfilling a need, and you filling that need in the marketplace, and finding people who are willing to pay you to solve that need.
Very true. And I think that almost speaks against what people might say. Well, why didn't you get into this? Because I was passionate about it, and I see there is value there. There's a lot of value there, and I don't discount that, and I don't think you even discount that. But is what you said was, hey, find the need. If you want to be if you're fishing and using the fishing, if the fish need food, provide food.
Right.
It doesn't. It's not that complex. It's just finding it within maybe the things that you like and try to find that kind of alignment. So if you like coffee and the Starbucks is available and that franchise is available, okay, maybe you should buy a franchise in that. Or if you're in my industry, in the massage industry, or the health and wellness industry more specifically, a little bit more broad, maybe you need to first find out where those people, because as they say, just because somebody wants wellness or massage doesn't mean that they're going to pay you for it, which includes
Exactly
your family, which is
right.
family.
That's right. And
Pay you.
that's a very good point. Is there are people who cook great food and everything, and everybody tells them how great it is, but are they willing to pay you for it? That's the key. That's when you have a business. People can tell you all the time how great it is, and you need to go into business. But are they willing to pay you for it? And do you find a market? And so, in a business like yours is a very personal business, and people let you get close to them. It's a very kind of intimate type of a service that you provide, and so you have to make sure that you are providing a unique experience. And I always tell people, make sure you charge enough to stay in business. A lot of people don't charge enough in order to cover their overhead, and so they're losing money every month. And I say, well, even if you're losing $1 every month, how long can you do that? And how long are you willing to do that? You have to look at some point where you're breaking even and turning a profit, or you're going to have what we call a grand opening, and very shortly you're going to have a grand closing. And usually, your grand closing, you do more marketing to get rid of the stuff that you have than you did when you started. So we always try to keep people, out of those grand closings, because that's when you really know. You're like, I never knew that store was there. Now they're closing, and they have people on every street corner with signs, and they have these very big signs because they're closing. What if they did that while they were opening, when they were, along the way, rather than when they're
Oh
closing?
my God, you have truly spoken the gospel there, brother. Okay, so again, grab the book, Your Business Venture, the prep, the pitch, the funding. That little piece of information he just said is marketing 101. Are you marketing to win, or are you marketing to go out of business? so
Right.
so I would encourage you to pop on over to Amazon, grab the book, tell a friend, make a comment, and encourage it and get involved. Business is a context sport. Lindsay already know that, but I'm gonna tell you this, and this is really important. And I think Lindsay will also agree with me, is that people listen to business owners. You know, they tend to listen to business owners. We often think of political leaders and all those different things. We listen to them, but do you, in your normal neighborhood transactions, you tend to listen to business owners, and if that's a passion because you have a mission to do another service, and business ownership or business acumen or business education, is going to give you that platform to go. then by all means, you need to have the tools, you need to have the resources, you need to have the wisdom to be able to be successful in whatever you decide and whatever God gave you to desire to go ahead and fulfill. So
Exactly
I want
right.
to thank you, Lindsay. I want to thank Michelle because I know she's floating around here somewhere because she seems always, we always hit each other up somewhere, or some I am. And I want to thank you for watching. And Lindsay, in closing, and I'll let you close on this, what do you want to leave for our viewers?
Well, I always want to make sure that people, first of all, you design a life that's worth living for you. You never want to be put in a situation where you are not enjoying life. And so, what I try to do, Michelle and I try to do, is create business around what we enjoy doing, and that's what we do. And so, every day we wake up, we do work, but it's a joy for us. So it's almost like we're not working; we're just going in, we're doing what we do, and people pay us to do that. And so that's what it's all about: is living a good life and being able to make some money while you enjoy that life.
Why not? Thank you very much, Lindsay. Peace and love, much success, and I'm looking forward to you making it, to that, bestseller list on Amazon.
Yeah, we're running today. So if you can go in today and get one of the Kindle or ebook copies, that would help us as we make this run. And then what we're going to do is after we do that, we're going to help people learn how to become bestsellers on Amazon. And so that's another way that we said, well, if there's a need out there, let's see how we can go through the process first and then help other people go through the same process.
And create credibility. I did
That's
say you were going
exactly
to say the last word, but I kept on saying, and it's like, hey, I've done it, so I'm gonna teach you how to do exactly what I did versus telling you go do that.
right.
All right, see you next time. Bye for
Thanks,
now.
BK.